Hi everyone and welcome back. Before we dive into the final chapter of the Hemline Homicides, I just want to say a heartfelt thank you for listening and supporting this small but growing channel. If you've enjoyed the story so far, please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe and leave a comment. I absolutely love hearing from you, and every interaction truly helps more than you know. And I'm thrilled to announce the Hemline Homicides is now officially available on Amazon. You can go grab a copy in print or for Kindle. Just check the links in the description below. Now get comfy, grab a cup of tea, and let's bring this mystery home. The Hemline Homicides, Chapter 8. The Final Thread. It was late into the morning. Snow had struggled to climb out of bed, feeling heavy from being dragged back into detective work, as well as at the betrayal of her dear friend Meryl. She stood in her kitchen, clutching a large cup of black coffee, waiting for its warm caffeinated effects to kick in. An unexpected knock at the front door made her jump, almost spilling the delicious brown liquid. She made her way to the front door and glanced through its peephole. Noakes stood on the other side with a brown evidence box tucked under one arm. She opened the door, and Noakes' usual no-nonsense expression softened just enough to register something like respect. "I think this belongs to you," she handed the box over. Snow took the box carefully, her fingers brushing the tamper seal. She opened it slowly, lifting out her thread organizer. Familiar spools lined up like soldiers, all there save the grey upholstery thread, which she noted had been replaced by a small slip of paper, retained for evidence. "Thank you," Snow said quietly. Noakes nodded once. "We'll keep the grey thread just in case the trial brings any surprises." Snow gave a faint smile. It wasn't the thread that tied her up. It was the belief that she could stitch over everything she didn't want to face. Noakes exhaled through her nose, a sign of agreement if ever there was one. "Are you going back to your old life, Doc?" she asked, hands in her coat pockets. Snow looked over her shoulder toward the sewing room where soft light filtered through the lace curtains. "I don't know," she said, and left it hanging there, like a question with no pattern to guide its answer. "I have just brewed a fresh pot of coffee. Would you care to join me for a cup?" Snow asked. Noakes shifted her stance. Snow could see that she possibly wasn't sure if she wanted to get back to the way things used to be either. After all, Snow hadn't just tried to leave working with the law behind her. She had also walked away from Noakes. "Maybe next time. I have a fresh crime scene with my name on it." And with that, Noakes turned and walked down the garden path towards her vintage Range Rover parked in the street. Some things never change. But Snow had, and as much as she loved the thrill of being involved in crime solving once again, she was also aware that it came with consequences. A short while later, Snow stood in her sewing room and former office, slotting her thread box into its position beside the embroidery silks and a tin of mother-of-pearl buttons. She moved with care, but not fragility. It surprised her how quickly the crime-solving reflex had returned, how naturally she had slipped back into her old instincts. The woman who had walked away from a life of forensics and fractured minds had believed she could sew herself a new beginning, piece by piece. But the truth itched like a poorly placed dart. Maybe that life was never gone, just basted into a quieter shape. She poured herself another cup of black coffee, opened her laptop, and hovered over the title of her next blog post. Healing Through Creativity. Her fingers rested on the keys. Then came another knock at the front door. She made her way to the front door again, This time, a courier stood on the stoop, cardboard box in hand, addressed to her in careful block lettering. She signed without thinking and carried it inside. The tape peeled back easily. Inside, nestled among red tissue paper, was a red leather tote bag. Vintage, perfectly preserved. It looked familiar. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up. She picked up the bag and looked inside. The bag contained a single photograph. Snow lifted it. Her breath caught in her throat, her heart pounding in her chest. She stared at the image for the longest time. The photo was of herself standing in her stall at the Festival of Threads, Shadow standing alongside her. No note, no return address, just the bag and the photo. The message was very clear. Snow stood very still. Then she placed the photograph on her desk, pulled the tote from the box and sat down, not to blog, to think and to remember. Some patterns don't fade, they just wait to be unpicked. Her hand shaking, she picked up her phone and typed a message to Noakes. He stared at it for a moment before hitting send. She's back. To be continued. Thank you so much for joining me for the Hemline Homicides. Coming soon, Stone Cold, the prequel to the Hemline Homicides and the chilling reason Dr. Snow Hiver walked away from her old life and into a world of sewing needles and second chances. Subscribe now because some ghosts don't stay buried.